The day we buried my father, I didn't just lose him. I lost my family. That night, when the will was read, I realized he hadn't left us an inheritance. He'd left us a bomb. And it exploded right there at the table. The funeral was a blur. If you've ever stood in a room where everyone keeps whispering, "I'm so sorry," on repeat, you know the feeling. It doesn't comfort you. It just buries you deeper. The house smelled of lilies and casseroles. Grief has a smell, you know? It's coffee that's gone cold, perfume that lingers too long, burnt wax from too many candles. I kept busy because stopping meant feeling. I poured coffee, stacked empty plates, folded coats left behind by neighbors who barely knew Dad. But every time I paused, grief ambushed me. I'd see him again, frail in those final weeks, trembling in his hospital bed, whispering he hated being a burden. David showed up late. Of course. He walked in like a senator, hugging everyone, telling charming stories about Dad that made people laugh. They didn't notice the irony, that he hadn't been there when Dad could have used those laughs most. But that's David. He could sell rain in a thunderstorm. Emily was the opposite. She sat in the corner, twisting her black dress, small and silent. To strangers, she looked like the sweet grieving daughter. But I knew better. Silence was her weapon. And that day, her silence cut deeper than any scream could have. Mom floated. She always did. Smiling at neighbors offering food, pouring coffee. But when she brushed past me in the hallway, her hand squeezed mine. Her voice dropped to a whisper only I could hear. "We meet with Mr. Cole tonight. The will." Her eyes slipped away before I could respond, like she just handed me a secret she didn't want to carry anymore. By late afternoon, the crowd thinned. That's when Cousin Nate showed up, because of course he did. Nate's the kind of guy who treats funerals like networking events. He hugged me too long, slapped my back and said, "Tough break, champ. But hey, your dad was a man of means. I'm sure he took care of you." I didn't answer. I just wanted him out of my house. We drove to Mr. Cole's office in silence. Mom and I in one car, David, Emily, and Nate in the other. The law firm smelled like lemon cleaner and expensive paper. Mr. Cole looked the same as always. Calm, dry, unreadable. But the way he kept adjusting his glasses told me even he knew tonight wasn't going to end clean. We sat around a long mahogany table, the kind that makes you feel like a defendant. David leaned back, already smug. Emily kept her eyes on the floor. Mom shredded a tissue into confetti. Mr. Cole started with the formalities. Donations to charity, a few personal bequests. Then he reached the part that mattered. "To my eldest, David," he read, "I leave the 1967 Mustang convertible and a trust valued at $250,000. David gave a solemn nod, but his lips twitched at the corners. "To my youngest, Emily, I leave the family cabin on Lake Crest and a trust valued at $200,000. Emily's head jerked up. Her eyes flicked to me, then away fast, like she didn't want me to see the questions already forming. Mr. Cole adjusted his glasses again. "And to my middle child, I leave the family home, all remaining liquid assets, and controlling interest in Marshall Air and Heating." The silence was suffocating. I stared at the polished wood table. My father's house. His business. Every account. All mine. David's chair screeched as he leaned forward. "You're kidding." Emily's voice broke. That doesn't make sense. He always said everything would be equal." Mr. Cole unfolded another page. "Your father left a letter. He asked me to read it aloud." My heart pounded. If you're hearing this, I'm gone. I didn't make these choices lightly. The house and the business go to the one who stayed, who showed up when I couldn't stand on my own. Without that, there would be nothing left to divide. This isn't about favoritism, it's about trust. My throat tightened. He trusted me. David's face went red. Trust? Is that what we're calling manipulation now? You think playing nurse wasn't a strategy? That's not fair, I snapped. Emily cut in, her voice sharp, trembling with long-buried hurt. You got to be the saint. We got to be the screw-ups. And now he gave you everything. Because I was there. My chest burned. When he couldn't lift his head, when he couldn't breathe, I was there. Where were you? David slammed his palm on the table, rattling the glasses. This isn't final. Wills can be contested. Courts love undue influence. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Mom finally spoke, her voice cracking. Please stop. This isn't what your father wanted. David leaned toward me, his eyes ice cold. You think this is over? It's just the beginning. And in that moment I knew he meant it. The morning after the will reading, the house felt crooked, like someone had tilted the floor a few degrees and everything was sliding toward the kitchen. Mom sat at the table in her robe, staring at a cold cup of coffee. Her eyes were swollen. She stirred the spoon slowly, like it gave her a reason to keep her hands busy. I don't want to fight them, I told her. She didn't look at me. You don't always get to choose the fight, she said softly. Sometimes it shows up wearing a suit and reads you a letter. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Lake cabin. Come alone. Please. I should have ignored it. But I couldn't. The lake looked like glass that day, reflecting a gray sky. Emily was pacing on the porch of the cabin, arms crossed, hair tied in a messy knot that said she hadn't slept. This isn't fair, she blurted the second I stepped out of the car. He promised us it would all be equal. He promised. You got the house. The business. The money. I got a cabin I can't even afford to fix and a trust that won't cover my debt. She laughed bitterly. Do you have any idea what it feels like to realize that's what you were worth to him? It's not about worth, I said carefully. He trusted me to keep Marshall Air alive. I didn't ask for this. You didn't have to, she snapped. You were his favorite. Her words cut me, but before I could answer, gravel crunched. David. He stepped out of his car in a tailored suit, sunglasses still on though the sky was overcast. He looked at the cabin like it was beneath him. Good, he said. We're all here. Emily stiffened. I asked her to come alone. David smirked. And I asked my lawyer if undue influence plays well in probate court. Spoiler, it does. I stepped off the porch. You want to drag our family into court? Put Mom on the witness stand? Parade nurses into depositions? He shrugged. I want a fair split. Dad built Marshall Air with his hands. You don't get to inherit his empire because you played Florence Nightingale for a few months. I kept him alive, I said, my voice shaking. Not long enough, but longer than he would have lasted without help. I kept the business running while he was in chemo. Don't you dare call that strategy. David leaned in close, his voice low, his breath sharp with cologne. Here's what happens if I file. You'll bleed money on lawyers. Vendors will get spooked. Employees will jump ship. And the first time a compressor fails in August, a customer will Google you and see Marshall Air embroiled in family lawsuit. His smile was cold. Reputations are fragile. I would hate to see yours shatter. Inside me something cracked. You're not going to do this, I whispered. He grinned wider. I already am. And then from the tree lean. He's not wrong about Google. We all turned. Cousin Nate stepped out, hands in his pockets, wearing a smug smile like he'd just invented the drama. What the hell are you doing here? I snapped. Relax, he said. I was just passing by. But since we're all being honest, he tilted his head at David. You told them yet? David's smirk twitched. Told them what? Nate's grin widened. About Mr. Cole's little slip last spring? You know, the private courier, the sealed envelope? The one that wasn't addressed to the office. My stomach twisted. What are you talking about? David stayed silent. Nate's eyes gleamed. Your dad didn't just make one will. He made several. Changed them like he changed oil filters. 3 times in 2 years. Makes you wonder what he was hiding. Emily's face went pale. Why would he keep changing it? I looked out at the lake. Our reflections trembled on the water. Because he was scared, I said softly. Scared of leaving us in pieces. David chuckled darkly. Mission accomplished. We argued until words ran out. David left first after promising, like dessert, that I'd be hearing from his lawyer. Emily sagged against the porch railing, her anger drained into exhaustion. I don't hate you, she whispered. I just hate how this feels. Her words broke me more than David's threats ever could. That night, back at the house, I went to Dad's office. The room still smelled like him. Coffee machine oil, a ghost of cigars he'd promised Mom he'd quit. The desk was neat because Dad lived by lists. Legal pads stacked in a column, pens lined like soldiers, a calendar marked with jobs and doctor appointments. I searched drawers until one stuck. I yanked harder. Inside was a shoebox labeled 1994. Photos. Letters. And at the bottom an envelope with my name. My hand shook as I opened it. Not a letter. A photocopy. Daniel Marshall, Last Will and Testament. Dated 10 months before the one Mr. Cole had read. In this version the estate was divided equally. My stomach dropped. He had changed his mind. Or someone had changed it for him. Behind me the floorboard creaked. You weren't supposed to find that, Mom said softly. I turned. Her face was pale, her hand gripping the doorframe. How long have you known? I asked. She swallowed. Since he wrote it. And since he tore it up. Why? My voice cracked. Why did he change it? Her lips trembled. Because he didn't know how to be fair when the truth wasn't. What truth, Mom? She flinched as if the words themselves carried blades. Before she could answer, the front door slammed. David's voice echoed down the hall. Where are you? He appeared behind her, eyes snapping straight to the paper in my hand. His grin spread like wildfire. Well, look what we have here. David's grin cut across the room like glass. He stepped forward, his eyes glued to the photocopy in my hand. An earlier will, he said. Equal distribution. Now that looks a lot more reasonable. This isn't valid, I shot back quickly. Dad revoked it. The last will is what counts. Or maybe, David said smoothly, this one's the truth. And the other was written under pressure. He tilted his head at me. Tell me, how many nights did you tuck him in with pills and water? How many times did you remind him how helpless he was without you? Influence is influence. Doesn't matter if you whisper it or shout it. That's not what happened. My throat burned with fury. You weren't there. You don't get to rewrite history from your penthouse balcony. Emily appeared in the doorway, drawn by the shouting. She froze, eyes darting between me and David. David spotted her and smirked. Perfect timing. Little sis, want to see what your saintly sister's been hiding? Daddy dearest had a different plan once. Fair one. Until she convinced him otherwise. Stop it, I snapped. This isn't about me. Of course it is, David said, his voice dripping with venom. It's always been about you. Emily's eyes filled with confusion. What's going on? Before I could answer, Mom's voice cut through the tension. She was standing in the doorway, pale, trembling. Enough. Both of you. David turned on her. Tell her, Mom. Tell her why Dad kept changing his will. Tell her what you've been hiding. Mom's lips pressed tight. Her hands shook. Not like this. Like what? David sneered. The truth's still the truth, no matter how you package it. Emily's voice rose, sharp and shaky. What truth? Mom looked at her, tears spilling. Emily. No, Emily said quickly, backing up a step. Don't. I have to, Mom whispered. You deserve to know. Emily's voice cracked. Don't make me the punchline of his betrayal. And then Mom broke. You're the child. The room shattered. Emily's face went white. No, she whispered. No, that's not. You're his daughter, Mom sobbed. But you weren't mine and his together. You were the result of a mistake he made. But that never mattered to me. You've always been mine. Emily stumbled back, shaking her head violently. You let me grow up thinking I was just less. That I was invisible because I wasn't good enough. And the whole time it was because I wasn't his. I stepped forward, desperate. Emily, you are his. He raised you. He loved you. Don't lie to me, she screamed. Her voice cracked like breaking glass. David chuckled darkly. Figures. That's why he couldn't look at you the same. You were just his sin walking around in a dress. Shut the hell up. I roared, but the damage was done. Emily turned on me, tears streaming. You knew. I didn't, I said quickly, my chest tightening. Not until now. You're lying. she cried, voice raw. She bolted for the door. The slam echoed like thunder. Mom crumpled into a chair, sobbing into her hands. David leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smug as a king who just conquered. Well, this is fun. And you thought you were the heir to martial air. Turns out you're just the heir to a mess. You're vile, I spat. He shrugged. I'm practical. His eyes gleamed. And now you've got a bastard sister, a guilty mother, and an invalid will floating around. How long do you think your precious company survives when this gets out? I clenched my fists. If you use her against us, I swear. You'll what? His smile widened. Bury me? You couldn't even bury Dad without screwing it up. I lunged forward, my fist slamming into the wall just inches from his head. The drywall cracked. My chest heaved. Try it, I hissed. And I'll bury you for real. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Just for a heartbeat. Then it was back, sharp and cruel. Careful, he whispered. You don't want to start a war you can't win. He strolled out of the room like he owned it, the front door slamming so hard the windows rattled. Mom sobbed harder. The silence after him was unbearable. I stood there, shaking, staring at the empty doorway where Emily had fled, where David had smirked his last threat. The truth was out. And our family wasn't fractured anymore. It was shattered. A couple nights later, headlights swept across the front lawn. David didn't knock, he never did. He barged inside, his arrogance filling the house before his voice did. You got my lawyer's notice? He asked. I got it, I said. Good. Because next step's a DNA test. Emily's the key now. She proves fraud, we burn the whole estate down. With her on my side, you've got nothing. Stop using her like a pawn, I snapped. She's not a pawn, David said smoothly. She's the queen. She flips the board. Mom appeared in the hallway, pale and broken. David, please. Stop this. He spun on her. You lied to us. You lied to her. You think you get to play peacekeeper now? You're the reason this family's ashes. Tears streamed down her face. I was trying to protect you. David barked a laugh. Protect us? You buried us. Before I could respond, a voice came from the shadows of the hall. Don't bother. He's right. Emily. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale, but her voice was steady. Dad didn't trust him. He didn't trust me. He trusted her. She nodded at me. David sneered. So now you're on her side? Emily's chin trembled, but she held firm. I'd rather be the mistake than whatever the hell you've become. For a second, David looked like he might hit her. His fists curled. His face burned red. Then he laughed, hollow and cruel. Fine. Side with her. You always wanted a big sister. Let her save you. He turned to me, his eyes like knives. Enjoy the company. You'll ruin it. Just like you ruin everything. The door slammed. His engine roared into the night. Emily collapsed into a chair, shaking. Mom reached for her, but Emily pulled away. Don't touch me, she whispered. Not yet. I sat across from her, my chest aching. You don't have to forgive anyone, Not him. Not Mom. Not even Dad. But you're not alone. Not unless you choose to be. Her eyes glistened. She stared at the shoebox still on the desk. What was in there? I slid the hospital bracelet across the table. She picked it up, read the date. Her lips trembled. So it's true. It's true, I whispered. We sat there in silence, three broken people bound by a truth none of us asked for. And I realized, inheritance wasn't money. It was secrets. It was betrayal. It was lies carved into our bones. And we had inherited more than we could carry. The house was quieter after David left, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence after a bomb goes off. Dust in the air, debris still falling, the kind of quiet that rings in your ears. Mom barely left her room. She cooked meals she didn't eat, folded laundry no one wore. Her guilt was a shadow that spread into every corner. Emily disappeared for days at a time. When she was home, she moved like a ghost, drifting through the hallways without looking at us. Most nights she stayed at the lake cabin. I'd catch glimpses of her sitting on the dock, staring out at the water like it might tell her who she was. And me? I kept showing up at the office. Payroll didn't care that my family was crumbling. Air conditioners still broke. Customers still needed heat in the winter. My employees looked at me like I had answers, but all I had was exhaustion. One afternoon, Mr. Cole called me in. His office looked the same as the night of the will. Tidy, lemon-polished, merciless. He adjusted his glasses, his signal that bad news was coming. Your brother's lawyer filed to contest the will, he said. I nodded. I'd been waiting for it. But this morning, he added, it was withdrawn. I froze. Withdrawn? Yes. No conditions. No explanation. Just dropped. For a moment I felt relief. Like I'd surfaced from drowning. But then the truth settled in. David didn't back down. Not ever. If he'd dropped it, it was because he'd already found another way to win. When I got home, Mom was waiting with an envelope in her trembling hands. It was in the safety deposit box, she whispered. Dad's blocky handwriting sprawled across the front. My name. I sat at the oak kitchen table, the same one where we detonated our lives, and opened it. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And if your brother and sister are fighting, then I've failed in the one thing I wanted most, to leave peace behind. Tears blurred the page. Emily deserves the truth. Secrets rot families. Don't protect her with lies. Protect her with love. As for David, he wanted me to see him as a man. But ambition blinded him. Maybe losing will teach him what winning never could. Or maybe not. That's not mine to decide anymore. It's yours. What you inherit isn't money. It's responsibility. Don't waste it. I folded the letter carefully, like it might disintegrate if I pressed too hard. That night I drove to the cabin. Emily was on the dock, knees pulled to her chest, her reflection trembling in the black water. I sat beside her. The wood creaked. Do you ever feel like you don't know who you are anymore? She asked softly. All the time, I said. She hugged her legs tighter. I'm the mistake. That's my story now. I shook my head. You're my sister. That's your story. Nothing changes that. Her voice cracked. Then why does it feel like everything changed? I handed her Dad's letter. She read it in silence, tears slipping down her cheeks. When she finished, she held it to her chest like a shield. Do you believe him? She whispered. I have to, I said. Otherwise, all we're left with is bitterness. She leaned against me just barely. I stayed steady the way I had during Dad's long hospital nights. When dawn came, gray and thin, I walked her back to the cabin. At the door, her hand brushed mine. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. 2 weeks later, Mr. Cole confirmed it. The estate was mine. The house. The business. Every account. On paper I had one. But standing in the office, watching employees laugh in the break room, I didn't feel rich. I felt like a fraud wearing a crown made of stone. Every signature carried weight. Every decision echoed Dad's last words. Don't waste it. David never came back. No calls. No texts. His silence was victory enough. Emily stayed at the cabin. Sometimes I'd see her by the lake when I drove past, a small figure against the water. I never stopped the car. Some wounds need distance before they can even think about healing. Mom stayed in the house, but she was changed. She cooked and cleaned like muscle memory, but her eyes were empty, like her spirit had moved out and left her body behind. And me? At night I walked the halls. In the pantry my fingers traced the pencil marks on the wall, me at 12, David at 14, Emily at 8. Our heights frozen in time, back when we were just kids, back when the worst fights we had were over chores. I pressed my forehead against those marks and whispered into the quiet. I didn't want this. The walls didn't answer. They just echoed back the laughter of a family that no longer existed. The will gave me everything, house, money, the business. But when I looked around, all I saw were ruins. My brother was gone. My sister shattered. My mother drowning in guilt. The lawyers called it an inheritance. But what I really got was a battlefield. So let me ask you this. If you were in my shoes, would you take the money, knowing it might cost you your family?